Good evening once again, and welcome to another edition of the Bits and Pieces Cricket Podcast, bit by bit, piece by piece. We want to introduce you to the game. We want to stimulate your interest. Or if you are a former fan, we want to get you interested in the game again. If you are a current player, we want to hear your thoughts and have you share your experiences. All right. This is the Bits and Pieces Cricket Podcast. Please like and share the broadcast, and we'll be back in just a moment. All right, all right. We're gonna be joined shortly by Akeem Dotson. In the meantime, Francis, can you please introduce yourself to our audience, please?
Hi, thanks again for having me on the show, Bits and Pieces. My name is Francis Mendonza, minor league and Atlantis cricket player.
Okay, great, great, great. Basil, just give them a quick reminder of who you are.
Okay, I am Basil Butcher Jr. I am a neuro athletic movement coach as well as a cricket coach.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so today we'll be we have two main subject areas. First, we'll be looking and discussing the art of stumping. And with us this afternoon will be two wicket keepers who play in the New York area, Francis Mendonza and Akeem Dotson. And of course, we have the cricket coach, Mr. Basil Butcher Jr., who will be able to add, you know, his bits and pieces to the wicket keeping conversation. So we're going to get this evening started with. I grabbed a little video manual from the YouTube, and this is Stephen Fry just talking some basics about stumping.
Stumped. All batsmen fear being stumped, and all wicket-keepers dream of stumping batsmen. So let's be clear about the law. The only player who can stump a batsman is this fellow, the wicket-keeper. A stumping can take place provided that the ball is not a no ball. You can be stumped off a wide, however. Here, for example, the batsman has moved out of his or her ground to play the ball, but has missed it and has not attempted a run. The wicket is fairly put down by the wicket-keeper without the intervention of another fielder. When all these conditions are met, the batsman will find that he or she has indeed been stumped. It's also okay for the ball to rebound onto the stumps off any part of the wicket-keeper, including his or her protective equipment or helmet. If it is a no ball, the batsman will not be out-stumped and is also protected from being run out as long as he or she is not attempting a run. Don't be stumped about stumping. Get a copy of the Blue Book and study Law 39.
All right, that was Stephen Fry talking about stumping. And we're going to have something a little bit more from the umpire's perspective. We have our own Brian Kane, who prepared a little video for us, and he's going to add to the conversation. And when we get back, we'll get right into the meat of it.
Hey everybody, umpire Brian Arcane here with a bit of a note on stumpings. You can see here on the screen the ICC men's T20 playing condition related to stumping, which is very similar to the MCC law. Now you can see here that a stumping is pretty straightforward. The ball has been delivered by a bowler. It has been missed by the batter. That means that it has not hit their bat. And it has been collected by the keeper behind the stumps. And then while that batter is still out of their ground, the keeper fairly puts down the wickets. Now, the keeper, as you can see here in the law, does not need to collect the ball in their hands. It can be thrown by that keeper. It can bounce off of any part of that keeper. And if it impacts with the stump while the batter is still out of their ground, they will be out stumped. Now, stumped is the responsibility of the square leg umpire. So this is the umpire standing off to the side at the batting end. This is one of only 2 or 3 decisions that they directly get to make, including hit wicket and runouts at their end. So it's really important for the square leg umpire when they are there. This is not a time to break. This is not a time to relax. You are as on as the bowler's end umpire needs to be the entire time to make sure that a thing like stumpings is taken care of. We know that stumpings happen very quickly, and often in these modern days of cricket, it's only the third umpire with the advantage of a video review that is able to make the proper decision. So at the local level, we are using our best judgment and often giving batters the benefit of the doubt that they will have gotten back in before the keeper has taken off the bails. We judge every one of these instances with the objectivity that we assess every single moment. But it's often hard with those split-second decisions, and we'll often keep the batter in the crease rather than sending them off errantly. Thanks so much.
All right, that was Brian Kane giving us an overview of keeping. Before I go to the first wicketkeeper in our panel, Basil, having looked at the rules, having listened to Brian, anything that you would add as a coach?
The most important things would be your footwork, your balance, your catching technique, because you got to receive the ball. Those are the things you would look at where in terms of helping a wicketkeeper to get better or to enhance their stumping skills. Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, Francis, how did you get started behind the wicket? What having taken a look, at the various fielding positions, and the things you can do. What initially got you behind the wicket?
So, obviously I'm from, born and raised in Guyana, but living in America now, New York specifically. Pretty much just playing, in the streets and stuff like that, just playing cricket. It was my stepfather at the time that took me to GCC and introduced me to, playing cricket at the club level. And there I met my uncle Ivor Mendoza, who played a couple of test matches for West Indies. And got to know that he was a wicket keeper. And at that time he was training quite a few guys that were playing for Guyana and West Indies. And just played regular cricket. I mean, I knew nothing about keeping or anything. He didn't even was interested in training me or showing me any of the ropes or tricks. And at that time, they had a lot of youngsters were going to GCC, and there was this gentleman by the name of Harold Danraj, the late Harold Danraj. He was a longtime member of GCC. I'm pretty sure Mr. Basil Butcher might know of him. I'm not sure if you might have heard of him yourself. And we were somewhere around the seawalls. I can't remember the exact grove. It's been so many years. And we were playing just regular cricket. And, at that time I was bowling leg breaks. I pretty much would just bowl. And he saw me behind the stumps, and he saw me doing a little thing. And he was like, wait a minute, you got something going here. Your uncle is, played for West Indies. Why is he not, showing you stuff? You look pretty decent. And that's pretty much how it started. They had on the 19 trials at that time. I think I was probably 12, 13, if I'm not mistaken. And he put my name down on the 19 trials. And I remember very, very well that my uncle was a bit upset by that because, you being a youngster, you didn't feel I was ready, especially knowing that I didn't really know much of it. And at that time, he reeled me in, and then he started showing me, some tricks of the trade. Some other guys that he was training, I would work with them, and showed up to the trials and did okay. And, they had the likes of Tyrrell Tull and these guys. And so for me, I was, I knew I wasn't probably going to make it to Guyana level or something, because being a
Right.
youngster, you're under these guys and they're much more prolific than you are. And he showed up to one of the trials to actually see me keep, and I took a catch down the leg side. I can't remember off of who it was batting, and it was a one hand grab, and he was quite impressed. And then pretty much it just took off from there, and I just kept on training, and that's pretty much where I fell in love with the position and just kept on
I
doing it
get.
until I came over
Okay.
here.
Cool. Let me see if I can get Akeem into. Akeem, we're not seeing your head. Akeem. All right. We're gonna have to fix that later. All right. So who do you presently, give our views? Who do you presently keep for at the moment? What club? What?
So I play for Atlantis Cricket Club in the Metropolitan Cricket League.
Mhm.
That's in New York area, and then there's a few other clubs outside of New York. Once I'm available, I would go and play. If it's not in Connecticut, there's a team that I recently played a couple of games for, two T20 games last weekend in Connecticut, called Combine 11. They're in Danbury, Connecticut.
Oh,
There's another club in Connecticut, that by the name of Riverside. There's quite a few clubs then, but mainly it's cricket right here in New York on a Sunday.
okay, good. Okay, good. You're watching the Bits and Pieces Cricket Podcast. This evening, we're going to be looking at the art of stumping, and we're also going to have a discussion on, what other sport might a cricketer participate in that, might just help him or her to better their game. All right. This is the Bits and Pieces Cricket Podcast. Please tell a friend, share the broadcast, and we'll be back with you shortly. All right, let's go behind the stumps a little. We have two clips we want to share with our panel and our viewers. The first is that promotional game that they had in 2015 at City Field. Were you at that game, Basil?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it was a promotional game. And here is Warren, the late great Shane Warren. He was bowling to VVS Laxman, and Sangakkara was behind the wicket. Okay, Basil, what did the batsman do wrong, and what did the keeper do right in that scenario?
The batsman started too early and Shane Warne saw him coming
Hmm.
and bowled it shorter. So he was never able to get to the pitch of the ball. And you could see what he tried to. So because he didn't get to the pitch, he tried to play a horizontal bat shot, which is, like a cut shot, and
Hmm.
missed. That was the mistake he made. Came too early. And it was, even an amateur like me could have stopped him because he was so far down, the ball bounced perfectly, collect, and just take the bails off. That was as easy a stumping as one
And,
could have.
and,
I'm sure
and, and, and
Alonso will agree with that.
Hold on, you were keeping. Sorry, I got some technical.
No, 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 no. I was saying,
did you see the clip, Francis?
I was listening. I was watching the clip, and like the noise went muted and it froze. So I just restarted
Okay.
the link
All right,
there.
let me play that back because I wanted you to comment.
yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Francis. Basil was saying it. That's as easy
yeah,
as
that was
something as you can get. What was it?
yeah. If you miss that as a keeper, something. I think the bowler might tell you to just give me the gloves instead.
Exactly.
That was very easy.
That
Yeah,
was
because
very easy.
I
Yeah,
had my
Okay.
I had my when I played for Atlantis, there were a few times I had to deputize as a wicketkeeper. So even even me, I could have stumped him with
You
that
could have
one.
started. All right. Now, in all seriousness, now let's look at that. We accept it. It was an easy kind of situation.
yes.
Basil, what can possibly go wrong though at a moment like that when it's clear it's a walk in the park.
What is usually is when the wicketkeeper would take their eyes off the ball,
Okay.
because um, with catching, because remember at the end of the day you have to catch the ball, and if you look a lot of times when you see fielders drop what we would call dollies, simple catches.
Hmm.
One of the telltale signs to always try to look at, and I would advise people when they're watching at these matches, look at the eyes of the fielder, because
Right.
you do catching, guys, because they're playing at a high level, they do catching and it's so routine. They catch the ball and they're not even looking at the ball into their hands. But the proper technique, you always want to into follow the ball into your hands with your eyes, right? And not realizing you take your eyes, that split second you take your eyes off the ball, you don't know where exactly the ball is. So then
Hmm.
the ball can hit the wrong part of the hand and drop out your hand, even if it's a dolly. So
Right. Right.
even from a wicket keeping perspective, you would see wicket keepers, they see the guy go down the wicket and they say, I got him. But the fundamentals they forgot to do was to look the ball into their hands, catch the ball first, then take the bails off.
And then take the bills
But
off.
thought they got it covered, and next thing you know, they scrambling, they drop the ball, and the batter get a chance to get back into the crease.
Right. Right. Akeem, can you hear us?
I can, yes. Can you
Okay.
see me?
Welcome aboard. Yeah, part of your head is still missing. I don't know what it is with you in your head. Why you want to hide your head, but
Yeah,
Better?
there we
yeah,
go. There we go. There we
that's
go,
much
Dodo.
much better.
All right.
That's it.
Basil, I think Vicky was asking what year you had to deputize.
Well, here, I have a trophy. I could show you the trophy. I took
On
six
dismissal.
catches, 6 catches. The current vice president of Atlantis, Philip Thompson, used to bowl some beautiful outswingers. And that day, we were playing with a two-piece ball up at Hexter State. And anybody know about the two-piece ball? That ball swings. So I was just collecting them in the back. Clicks, clicks. I
So
got a trophy.
one day,
6 catches.
in one game,
One game.
Wow.
he was having a nation.
No, that's what I'm saying. Because Philip bowled natural outswingers, right? And then to have the two-piece. Oh my Lord. I was just collecting them it was like net practice.
Interesting. All right.
That
Before we
was
go on,
by the way,
go
for
ahead.
Vicky's edification, that was in the 90s. That was probably in the either mid 90s, around that time.
He says he need witnesses to notarize those statements.
Well, here
Sometime in the 1900s.
what he could
That
do, he
Butch,
could very
but
he
Butch,
could
hold on. That argument actually came up last year. Last year when I was playing for Atlantis, the first game of the season, I think I grabbed 5 or 6, and I think they
uh-huh.
were talking about it, and they were asking who has the record. They were checking on it. And I
Yes.
that I played last year, and they were trying to find.
Yes.
Oh,
Because
so this is news to me, so I gotta
no,
find
no,
out.
no, 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 no.
You gotta go
No,
clarify too.
and well, now Philip is the vice president. You can check with Philip
But
with that day.
Philip was there at the game, and he never
No,
won.
well, here I will have to remind Philip.
It's one of those unusual things that some people don't remember,
Yeah,
right?
because Keith Aaron was our captain, the late Keith Aaron, and he didn't show up that weekend, so I had to keep.
Okay. Before we move on, Akim, could you tell us how you ended up behind the stumps? What what took you to that position? What got you started as a wicketkeeper?
Um, well, I guess in my case, I ended up behind the stump because nobody else wanted to really keep. You
Okay.
know, I think I was always a natural athlete, a very agile individual, things like that. But I think also my ability to catch very well
Hmm.
made the position very suitable for me. And I was a little short. I'm a little short guy too. I can't run the ball fast. Everybody else bowls. All I do is
Right.
bat and say, "You get behind the stump."
Right. Interesting. So how long have you been keeping, and what team do you presently keep for?
Uh, I've been keeping probably maybe about 20 years now, I'd say at least.
Hmm.
I'm the captain for the Sheffield Cricket Club. I also play for the New York Empire Titans in the minor league last season. Um,
Okay.
and I've recently I've played with Washington Tigers in DC, and those are probably my three most
Okay.
recent teams.
Okay. Great.
Other than that, before we played for Team USA on the 19th, 2000, from 2003 to 2006, and Team USA shortly after that, and until
Okay.
uh, recently, 2000, our last tour, 2015.
Hmm. All right. Thank you. Were you able to find the trophy, Ambassador?
No, man, I got all my Atlantis runner-up trophies, but I ain't got my individual trophy. I think that trophy might have broke or something.
All right, we
Can you
can
find
remember
that
to we can
later?
remember to check in with you next week on that.
Yes, yes, yes. I will have to call Philip to
To remind him.
Mendoza, I got the record for Atlantis. Don't worry that.
Okay, you can come for him.
All right. Let's look at another stumping. This is a local game. This is a Ghana at the Ghana Inter County in 2015.
Last week of the newcomer's gone. Gonski, 61 for 4. Terrence Madramutu comes on the track. Sapi perhaps sees him coming. This is right offside.
That's the big Madramutu getting stumped.
Yeah, the big turn. So, Francis, what did the batsman do wrong there, and what would have been going on in the mind of the wicketkeeper at that moment?
I mean, it comes down to the situation. He probably felt the need. He had to go after it, and at that given time, probably had to up the ante. So it was probably bound to happen sooner than later. I mean, most times that's what happens when a batsman gets bogged down a little too much, and
Mm.
the batsman at the other end isn't doing much. It puts the pressure on that batsman, and pretty much with the keeping position, you're always in the ears of the batsman trying to, pick their mind and get in their head a bit. So I'm pretty sure something around there probably might have occurred, for him to run down the track there to the
Right.
bowler. And again, it depends on what type of bowler it was. So
Mm. Mm.
obviously
Okay.
you're not sure if it's a leg break bowler or off spinner. Um,
Mhm.
you know. But I think
Right.
in a situation like that, knowing the type of player he is, it's a situation where he had to get sixes and fours because he's not a guy that, especially me, whenever I'm behind the stumps, I tell him don't move a leg. So but he doesn't do that. So I get it. It probably was a situation where he had to go after it.
Okay. Okay. So, Akeem, at that moment, what calculations do you figure that the keeper is making as he's looking, the ball is coming down, Terence there, he's getting ready. What is going on in your mind, you the wicket keeper's mind?
Well, for me, as um, as usual, what you want to do is keep the same thing in your mind as always to catch the ball first, like Butcher was coach was talking about before.
Mm.
The biggest mistake you can make is taking your eyes off that ball and dropping it. But you drop the ball is the end of story, right? In order to make the play, in order to stump the guy, You need that ball in your hand. So what's going through your mind at the time, especially before you see a guy advance, right? You don't know he's gonna advance unless he told you just now. You already told him what not to do, right? So what's going through your mind is catch, right? I
Hmm.
want to catch the ball first of all. Make sure I receive and I catch.
Okay.
After that
Oh.
is the rest is the rest should be poetry in motion.
All right. All right.
Elementary, as they would say.
Yeah,
Francis,
yeah.
Vicky's asking keepers, how do you pick a mystery bowler? Is there a signal or do you try to
Well,
read the action?
well, I don't think there's any mystery ball in New York. At least I haven't seen any.
Well, here,
I
I
mean,
could give you, well, I could tell you my experience because I'll tell you who I learned to wicket keep from. I
Hmm.
learned by watching Milton Paidana as a youngster going to border and watch Guyana play. Because that was one of the things as a youngster. Every time I went to see cricket at border, one of the things I saw, I would go home. So Pi from behind, collecting, to the fast bowlers.
Hmm.
And the spin bowlers is where you collecting the fast bowlers was easy for me. A well wicket keeper is the ones that can keep to the spin. And one another another time I had to deputize Paidana. I was playing with the club with Paidana, Roraima in the Brooklyn League, and he couldn't come, so I filled in. And when Ray Joseph, who played for Guyana and so on, bowling, oh, you should have seen me. Them guys was like, "What you gonna replace Pai?" Because I was athletic taking. And Lord of Mercy, Clyde Butts come out to bowl. And Clyde Bus bowled the one that goes straight. I going for the turn, and I went down to the leg side. The ball went straight past me for 4 miles. So what was the picking thing? I had to say, see, I don't know about this keeping up story. I will take a few steps back. Stumping up to be out of the equation because I couldn't pick him. He would bowl the straight ones, and I would go leg side, and the ball went straight down. So, um, I guess the thing what Vicky is talking about is that's where the wicket keepers got to develop that skill. They got
Hmm.
to develop the skill to know when their guy bowls the certain ball. They don't be like me going down leg side and the ball is passing outside the off stump. And
yeah,
wicket keepers. That's why we often say wicket keepers should be some of the better players of spin because if they are wicket keeping to good spinners, they have to do the job of picking just like the batsman because otherwise they look stupid behind the stumps.
yeah. I think what it comes down to sometimes is game plans most times too. With certain bowlers, them if you kind of if you notice a batsman isn't playing a certain type of style of spin. For instance, they have this youngster Leon Mahabir he played in for Liberty, and
Mm-hmm.
I've kept him a couple of times, and he pretty much would bowl some off breaks or he bowl the leg break. He pretty much would have the same action, kind of similar to Sunil Narine. And
Mm.
again, sometimes you might tell him, you might behind the stumps, you might give him a little signal because the batsman isn't seeing. You might give him a signal and tell him, look,
Mm.
or majority of the time it's pretty much if you're playing with different type of bowlers you might not have that type of what should I say stay with the bowler and just going up to him and telling him you don't want to give any notion to the batsman that you're going to go try something. So sometimes as a keeper it's more of instinct. You're watching the bowler's arm and you're just watching the ball how it comes off of the pitch. For me, it's all about just keeping your eye facing down, obviously your hands pointed down, and just stay balanced. Just move where depending on where the ball is pitched, and you pretty much just go off of that. It's just a natural. It comes natural. It's kind of a hard thing to explain like that, but
Hmm.
that's the way I've done it throughout my years.
Okay. Okay. Now, Akim,
Yes.
is it in your instance? Is it automatic when if it's a fast bowler, you're a little way back. When it's a spin bowler, you're close up to the wicket. It are there any times when there's a change in that strategy?
I personally I judge whether I'm going to stand back or not based on how the batsman is approaching the ball more than how the bowler
Hmm.
is bowling. Uh, whether I'm 10 paces back or right up to the stump, catching the ball is the same technique, right? What I might worry about is the ball hitting the edge a little bit more often, but I want to react the same way, watch the ball the same way, keep the same basics, right? Uh,
Mhm.
for sure, there are different dynamics that come into play. Like same thing with we were talking about in the previous question, what Vicky asked about picking a spinner, whether you pick it, whether you're watching out of the hand or you're picking it off the pitch, right? For sure, it depends on how that bowler is bowling, how
Mm-hmm.
you're going to approach that ball as a wicketkeeper. Because for sure, in order to be a dynamic wicketkeeper, especially for a player like me who's had the experience of showing up on teams where I don't know everyone, right? That happens a lot in America, right? You go someplace to play, you don't know who you're playing with, but this guy does this and that, right? And you have to be able to react to both.
Mm-hmm.
In order to be ready for that dynamic, you have to be able to read the ball, read this guy's hand, whether he's doing this or that, and if that's difficult, then read it off the pitch, right? And
Mhm.
like Butch was talking about Paidana. Paidana is definitely my personal coach. He's coached me uh, when I first started wicketkeeping at the age of 14 and 15, and then I for sure I credit him with my probably my most my greatest success as a wicketkeeper with the he was the coach when I broke the world record at the T20 qualifiers, right? 6 dismissals in that game. But like Pi always try to teach us that you don't react until you see what that ball is doing, right? So you're there down in the crutch, down here waiting for the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You watch the hand, you don't know where it's going. You wait for it to hit the pitch. When it hits the pitch, you'll see it.
Mm-hmm.
If you move before it hits the pitch, you end up like Butch down the leg side, and the ball between you
Yep.
that slips.
Yep. But just to touch on what Don was saying, I think at the end of the day too, it comes down to you as the wicketkeeper having some confidence too with the same fast bowlers, because it might not be a true fast bowler, but they have some batsmen that might be batting out their crease, or they might taking out their counter attacking the swing of the bowling. And you don't want to see that as a keeper. You take the initiative, you want to go up. Some bowlers them might take it as a slight and get a bit upset or annoyed and say, no, what you doing, go back. But most times I've seen it when I've done it, and I'm pretty sure Datsun have done it. Wicket taking opportunity has been created just by doing that, because one, it changes the mindset of that batsman. He has to go back in his crease and he's thinking, man, if I can't play a certain shot, they might have a slip there. I got to watch how I drive. I might got to be a little bit more in my shell now. So
Mhm.
again, now it comes down back to the bowler now, bowling in the right areas. I think if you have a bowler that's bowling all over the place, you as a keeper, you go up there, you might look a little foolish. So
And
Okay.
the captain may have a problem because
yeah,
here you're giving away buys, you're giving
yeah,
away easy run.
wides as well.
Yeah,
So
and Andy, the Akeem made a very important point when he spoke about what Pai would say, and this is a cardinal sin that wicketkeepers often commit, is that they come up too early before the ball has done all what it's supposed to do,
mhm.
and more than likely, if a ball got edged, they can't react to the catch because they're
Mhm.
already coming up. But if
Mhm.
you stay down, the it that is similar to like where a batsman, the later you can play the ball, the more options you have as a batsman to play the ball where you want to play it. The later you can play. But if you, the same with wicketkeeper, the later you could stay down and react as late as possible, the better chances you will have to, especially the more difficult catches in the edges the batter would play for you to take a successful catch.
Okay, great, great. Thank you. So, just let me have a closing question. Of course, in future podcasts, we'll be looking more and more at more in depth at the whole wicket keeping position. But starting with you, Francis, as you look around the world, whether West Indies, India, beyond West Indies and beyond West Indies,
Mhm.
who would you consider as the two or three greatest wicket keepers? And if you were to be, with two or three wicket keepers, would
from
you
from
like to
all
be?
time you're talking about
Yeah, yeah.
Contemporary? You talking about
Contemporary,
okay.
like say from the 2000s.
2000s. I mean, well, I watched Adam Gilchrist for one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Alex Stewart. Was he in 2000s?
Yeah, I think
Alex,
so.
Yeah, he might have played in the early
yeah,
2000s.
Alex
Yeah, the
Stewart
early.
and Ridley Jacobs. Those three guys.
Okay, okay. Really would have been more in the 90s, right?
No, I believe he played in the 2000s.
If
If
you did, okay,
I
okay.
against Australia,
Right, right, okay.
I believe so. That was in 2000. I believe so. I
Who,
could.
who are your heroes, Akim?
Well, as of for sure, Kumar Sangakkara was definitely someone I always idolized and I modeled myself after. I try to watch a lot of him and emulate what he did. Gilchrist as well, for sure. In as of modern time, as of contemporaries, those two are probably the two most uh, that stand out the most. Other than that, Jack Russell, of course, I got a lot of time to see Paidana, and for sure that had a big
Mm,
influence on how I
okay,
keep and the way I keep my wickets.
right, right, okay. As a coach, Basil, um, a young up and coming wicketkeeper, you look at him, you see he's got some, some of the basics down. As a coach, who would you like him to emulate of the keepers from all time? Who are the two
Um,
or three keepers
I
you would
wouldn't
want
want
him to
him to
emulate?
emulate is I would first I want him to get the basics.
Mm-hmm.
I want him to master the basics. And to emphasize those basics, maybe I would look at wicket keepers. I can tell you there was a guy from England in the 70s named Bob Taylor. Bob Taylor, unfortunately for him, he didn't play more test matches for England because there was Alan Knott in front of him. And because
Okay.
Alan Knott was a better batsman than he was. But in terms of a technical wicket keeper, Bob Taylor was second to none. Um, there was another guy from Pakistan named Wasim Bari that played in the 70s and probably into the early 80s. He was another superb gloveman. Um, so you would seek out to the young player to look at guys who were technically. Another guy too was Ian Healy
I was just
from
say that.
Australia. He is another superb glovesman. So you want the player to see somebody that is doing all the technical, the fundamentals over and over, because as a coach for movement, you want whatever skill you're developing or overall skill, whether it's batting, bowling, fielding, you want that player to be a master of the fundamentals, because those is the when you look at all the great players across the board, they were masters of the fundamentals, that they are able to execute those fundamentals regardless of the situation. And that's what often happen to guys where they don't master the fundamentals. And when they get in a tight situation, they look to want to execute. But because they haven't mastered, more times than not, they're not as successful. So I would want that first, the basics, and then whatever basics I'm teaching or guiding the player, because I'm not going to be teaching, guiding the player is to concretize that by having him to look at players that I feel that were great technicians of wicket
Okay.
keeping, so he can see them in action and take some things from different keepers and add to his or her keeping skills.
Okay. Thank you for that. All right. We're gonna move on to our second topic for tonight, where we're looking at other sports a cricketer might opt to participate in that may give him or her an edge. All right, so we'll be back in a few seconds. Now, Akim, I know that most athletes, most sportsmen, most sportswomen, they would have at some point participated in more than one sport. Have you been a part of any other sport that you felt, you know, give you an edge in cricket?
Well, for sure. I would say I, especially when I was a lot younger, I did a lot of swimming, table tennis, and karate.
Hmm. Okay, okay. And how do you feel that they help in, was it
For sure. I
stamina?
would
Was it
say
stamina? How
for
do you see
sure.
it?
Karate, I believe, more a lot with agility and body awareness.
Hmm.
You know, how to leap, how to jump, and how to reach for something when you need it, right? How to get your body to react the way you want it to when you want it to, right? That's mostly that's what I learned from karate. Table tennis for sure with hand-eye coordination.
Hmm.
Watching the ball onto that racket is a lot similar to watching the ball onto the bat, and into the hands and stuff like that. And swimming for sure for endurance training, and they say a lot. I think they say that's swimming they call the complete sport, where it exercises all parts of your body. So,
Okay.
sure for stamina, exercise, swimming I think really helps with that.
All right. Thank you. Francis, what about you?
Same table tennis. I dabble a bit when my time playing at GCC when I had a table tennis board there. Over here, unfortunately, I haven't played that in a while. Um, Wash, I played times as well. Probably a bit off topic. I mean, in terms of strength training, being in the gym, and most recently since 2018, taking up marathon running. I think that's ever since I've started doing those types of exercises and doing these marathons and running. It's pretty much helped me mentally focus more, and it plays a big role as a cricketer. It kind of pushes you mentally. You're running amongst other people in the street, pretty much 26.2 miles, and that says a lot. You're always thinking like, what are you doing out here? You're running. What is the purpose? So you're constantly challenging yourself, and for me that is not like cricket. You're not trying to score the most runs or get the most dismissals. For me, it's a personal thing. It's you against yourself. Pretty much, you have to make it across that finish line.
Mhm. Right.
Uh,
Okay.
I
You want
definitely
to?
agree with I definitely agree with Francis on that. Running is definitely a great. I definitely have never had the chance to do it competitively, at least other
Mhm.
than a long time ago as a kid. But for sure, running is always great for focus. And anytime you want to, like Francis said, you set that goal, you take off and you run for it, man.
yeah, I,
It
I
really
think
gives you time to yourself, you know.
yeah, I think it's it's kind of similar to going to the gym and just playing a different sport, especially with I mean, with going to the gym and running in general, it's just you alone. Mentally,
Mhm.
you're going there and you're just focused on doing something, a task. It's basically you're your own team. You're the only person that's pushing you. Nobody else is there to tell you, listen, you got to run one more mile. You got to do one more rep. It's very challenging. It's hard. A lot of people since I've done it have reached out to me and have gotten inspired, and I happy for that. And I've told people, I said, you don't have to do a marathon. You can start
Mhm.
with 1 mile or just go to the park. I think exercising in general is just should be a part of your lifestyle. It's healthy, and it's just like eating. You got to take care of your body. So
All right. All right. Before I go to Basil, 'cause I know Basil, you've studied this particular subject. Please remember you are listening to the Bits and Pieces Cricket Podcast, and we'll be back shortly. Basil, what's your own take? What other sport you feel a cricketer can participate in that may just help him to improve his or her game?
Racket sports to start with. As Akeem talked about table tennis, it's the hand-eye coordination one, tracking the balls, looking that ball onto the racket. This is akin to what you would do. That skill would transfer to batting. Um, all the other racket sports, whether it's squash, whether it's racquetball, whether it's tennis. From a tennis perspective, somebody serving the ball at you over 100 miles an hour, and you have to get into position and predict where that ball is going to bounce and play it, is akin to cricket batting. And why it would even help a whole lot is because the ball is coming really faster than you would ever face a cricket ball. And you have to get into position quickly and predict where that ball is going to hit. Because one thing, but a lot of people don't realize, batting is about predicting where the ball is going to land, because it's not humanly possible to track that ball from out of a bowler's hand all the way to when it hits. So your focus switches from the time the ball leaves the bowler's hand to where you're going to predict where the ball is going to hit. So we from a neurological perspective, we would say that we want batters to become better predictors of where that ball is going to land, so they can pick up and get into position to play the ball. Another sport, just from a catching perspective, baseball, and even American football, because we often see in cricket, guys have difficulty when they have to catch the ball over the shoulder, which is a routine catching for wide receiver. That's what they do all the time, running back and taking the ball over the shoulder. And we would see cricketers get turned around 4 or 5 times, picking up the ball to catch it when it comes over their shoulder. The baseball, if you look at the outfielders, for example, they don't move at the crack of the bat. They move until they know the ball has hit its apex, and then they move, especially the high ones, which a lot of guys in cricket have problems with. And they anticipate well when you hear the crack of the bat, especially if it's a line drive. They would know. You would start to see a guy start running backwards because they're already predicting that ball is going to go over their shoulder, because from the crack of the bat, the sound and that anticipation. And that's something I think cricketers need to enhance, because more of those baseball techniques and catching it would really help. Even something a sport like volleyball. Volleyball would bring several things into play. Footwork, moving to the ball. The volleyball, when you hit the ball like this, that's similar to catching a ball. It's the same movement pattern, except your hands are closed because you got to hit the ball. The one when you spike the ball, that's like it's the same movement pattern of throwing a ball. So those things you would be training all of those things, that cross training thing, enhancing those skills. So when you come to the cricket, those movement patterns are even more ingrained in you, that when you got to throw the cricket ball or catch the cricket ball, or your movement patterns or what have you would be a lot better. I think if you go back in history, a lot of cricketers played multiple sports before they decided on cricket. And cricket was the king of the jungle, so to speak. Us in the Caribbean. But if you talk to cricketers of another era, you'd hear those guys talking about how many sports, whether it was soccer, some play basketball, table tennis and hockey. Guys would have played a bunch of sports that would have a crossover effect. So what you were getting in the past eras, cricket was getting the best athletes to play the sport. Today, that's not the situation, because Now these days, guys playing, all they play is cricket. They don't play. They never play. So what Akeem talked about earlier about the body awareness. You see a lot of guys today, they don't have that body awareness. You watch them move on a cricket field, you could tell they never did nothing other than try to play cricket. You
Okay.
know? Yes.
Now, given that you recommended rocket sports,
Mm.
makes me think of a question of uh, now Ashvarti. She started in tennis, left tennis, went to cricket, did well in cricket, then came back to tennis. What do you think? How do you think cricket helped her when she went back to tennis?
Well, probably the because let's remember this. Cricket is an individual sport in a team sport. Because when you walk out to bat and facing the bowler, that's an individual contest with you and that bowler. Or you are as a bowler with a batter. That's an individual contest. So the cricket and baseball are two sports where you have that individual contest in the team in a team sport. So that probably would have helped her. Dealing that mano individual thing, and so when she went back to tennis, that could have helped some because you got a bowler coming at you. That's high intensity, as both of these guys are batters. A bowler trying to knock your head off, because these women today now, they bowling bouncers and everything now in women's cricket, right? And she being an Australian, they more than any team in women's cricket bowl a lot of short pitch bowling, because they have bowlers with decent pace to do so. So that would have probably helped her in terms of that intense individual contest as a batter when she came back to tennis. Yes.
Okay, cool.
And I tell you a quick story. I got a
Mm.
friend who is a tennis coach down in Florida, and he's from my town in Guyana. And so when we came back to when my parents moved back to Guyana in the mid '60s, I was a baby. My dad was appointed the coach for the Mackenzie Sports Club, and he was one of the first youngsters in that batch of youngsters that coach. And he said one of the things that really limited him with cricket was the fast bowling. He couldn't handle the fast bowling. Well, he emigrated and he went to live in Italy for several years, and he was coaching tennis there, and he played the game at a decent level. And he said he went and he played a cricket match, expatriates in Italy. And he said there
Mm.
was a guy from Sri Lanka that was bowling with some good pace. And what he noticed, he was able to handle the guy, the pace bowler. And I said to him, you know where that came from? From all your tennis playing. A guy soaring 100 miles an hour on the other side of the net. Like, you had to get into position, pick up that ball, and hit it back.
Right.
No, this
Right.
guy here, this pace bowling is not going to be a big problem for you anymore.
All right. Thank you, Buster. All right. Let's close off with our wicket keepers. Starting with you, Akeem. Where can cricket fans see you over the course of the summer?
Oh, for sure. This season, you can catch me at Sheffield Cricket Club games, Metro League, and also with the Liberty Sports Club in Richmond Hill Liberty. I should say the whole name, Vicky Vex. But I'm also a member of the Blue Nation, so you can catch me out there. Putting out putting as much effort as we can into the cricket. For
Oh,
sure, I always like to get the gloves whenever I get the chance. So those are
Okay.
mine. So come out and have a good time. Cricket is definitely here in the city again.
Okay, great, great. Thank you. And you, Francis, where can cricket fans see you over the course of the
They'll see me playing for Atlantis Cricket Club in the Metropolitan Cricket League on the Sundays. Saturdays, I'll more likely be out of state playing some cricket, and come June, hopefully, I'll be playing some minor league cricket. We'll
summer?
find
Okay.
tomorrow, come draft day.
Draft days tomorrow?
Yeah,
yeah.
That's news to me, bro.
Yeah,
what
Fraser told me that.
we'll find out tomorrow. But I can't.
I give a quick story about my boy Akeem here, because I was the physio trainer when we went to the Youth World Cup. And I could show how much he has improved as a wicketkeeper, because at that time, he used to, rather than receive the ball, so as a wicketkeeper, you want to receive the ball, so you take the sting. He would go at the ball. So halfway through the World Cup, every break I used to have to run out the field because his hands, and he was one of our top batters, and his forehands was sore.
Wow.
I showed that taught him a lesson.
Yeah, but now MS Dhoni says it's his technique, right? Instead of taking time to receive.
Yeah, yeah, right.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for
Right.
joining. Francis, thank you so much for agreeing to come on. Hakeem, it was nice having you both. Thank you, listeners, for joining us. And please do join us again next Wednesday for another edition of Bits and Pieces, the cricket podcast. Basil, you have something you have to show to Vicky and company for next week.
Oh,
You know, you gotta find that trophy. You gotta find the
I will
evidence.
make sure I contact Mr. Philip Thompson to remind Vicky. I ain't gotta make this up.
But
I
I
think
gotta
Philip.
get the evidence, If the evidence was
You know what? I
It's
don't know if I. Now I recall, and I can't remember if I got a trophy for it or not.
no, you can't remember the
No, but yes,
John got his scorebook.
Well, I know John. I can't go back to the old school books if they still got those are wrong.
Who else could vouch for this?
Wait, you can work it out. Don't worry, you can work it out.
All those guys who were playing for Atlantis there in the mid-90s, they could remember that much. I'll tell you another game I kept for Atlantis, friendly. We used to go to Washington D.C. every Memorial weekend to play against the former USACA president Dainty. I know Dainty since in the 80s. And there's a guy, he passed away now, a guy named Clement Neblet, played for Guyana. And at the time, Nebo was living in Canada. He hadn't moved to the States yet. And he came over to DC and played as a guest player on our team. And Neblet used to move the ball around. So I was keeping, and I think I talked about 4 or 5 catches off of his bowling too.
And I
Near 4 or 5.
I have had.
But you gotta bring the evidence. You gotta bring
But
the
you don't
evidence.
catch couple.
I have had some memorable times behind the stumps.
But you don't catch 1 and 2.
listen.
Yes, here, I'll tell you this.
Listen, I get a laugh for you, right? Not a few years I came in, right?
When
And
it comes to standing back, I could do it with any.
listen, man.
But
hear this
going
story.
up to the wicket, I was a shopkeeper.
That had a few years back, right?
Uh-huh.
When Butcher himself invited me to go and play for the team in Jersey. What was it called? GGWI. What was it?
Yeah.
Right? And Butcher went out to bat.
Mm-hmm.
A true story. Butcher went out to bat before I ever see him Butcher bat.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe he's a lefty. Butcher played extravagant cover drive for 4. You see the next ball off the field, pull up. So when talk about it, keep it.
That match
Boogie, you know that was the end, right?
Retired, and
Boogie, that was the end of Boogie.
It was over. It was over for Butch.
Man,
It was over.
I retired.
Boogie, the man didn't even feel. The man just went in one shot, hit 4, I'm back in the pavilion.
Not out.
Hey, 4 not out. 4
not out. Bro, that was the funniest thing ever.
I had my fun time. That's my fun time playing.
Thanks again.
Right.
And we've come to the end of this week's podcast. Thank you again. Thank our listeners, and we will see you next week for another episode of Bits and Pieces.
All right, guys.
Thanks for having me, guys.
See you guys.